This is a video special from the Mossad Files podcast. I'm Dan Raviv, a former CBS News correspondent, and on the Mossad Files, we talk about Israeli security issues involving Israel's legendary Mossad, which, of course, is the foreign espionage and action arm of Israel. There are other security agencies we talk about. And as we broadcast this, we're thinking about a double murder in Washington, D.C. Really shocking for the Jewish community there, and of course for Israel, because two employees of the Israeli embassy, an Israeli man and his American Jewish girlfriend, they were going to be announcing their engagement very soon, reportedly next week, and they were killed by an American already identified as a pro-Palestine or really pro-Hamas uh, demonstrator in the past in Chicago. He traveled to Washington, D.C. He used a gun. He shot these two Israelis. We're joined by a man who knows so much about, well, frankly, about security, how Israelis behave abroad, some of the crises that Israelis face. Ory Slonim, you are a well-known, very well-known attorney for years in Tel Aviv, but also a world traveler. I met you because of your book. Your book is really a history of how you tried to help the Israeli government and the Mossad find Israelis who'd been captured overseas, generally by terrorist groups, and you negotiated their way out, at least to the best degree you could. Your memoir, your book, I see it also in your office there in Washington. I see it also in your office there in Tel Aviv. A knock at the door, right? My story of my secret work on behalf of Israeli MIAs and POWs. Ory Slonim, thank you very much for joining us. Can I get your overall reaction? I mean, when you heard that two workers at the Israeli embassy, an Israeli, an American, were murdered in Washington, D.C., thought of as a safe city. What's your reaction to that, Ory Slonim?
It's an awful event. I think it's very sad that such an event occurred in Washington, in the middle of Washington, and I'm a little bit curious about security's measure there, but it's an awful event, very sad, and we can all only be with the families and with the Israeli embassy there.
Yeah, sympathy for the people there. As for the security issue, you know, and some of our viewers and listeners know that kind of security mission belongs not to the Mossad, but to Shin Bet, Sherutei HaBitachon, the security services, well known in Israel, of course, for their role in catching foreign spies and monitoring terrorist groups, even in the West Bank and Gaza, but also all around the world. They're responsible for security at Israeli embassies and Israeli dignitaries. But Ory, I know because you've traveled that some countries and some cities are considered safer than others. And so, frankly, for a low-level employee of the Israeli embassy in a generally friendly country like the United States and in Washington, even though it's an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum, just outside those two people were shot dead, um, I guess it'll have to change. But Ory, right? The Shin Bet agency doesn't protect people to the maximum in a friendly city like Washington, not usually.
I believe that this awful event will be checked and will be taken care by the authorities first of the U.S. and then by our people. And it's too early to speak about this issue.
I see. Whether Shin Bet is going to have to tighten security even in the U.S. Well, I'll tell you, as someone who lives in Washington, D.C., and knowing about the rise of anti-Semitism, frankly, since October 7th of 2023, when Israel was shocked and attacked, more than 1,200 people were massacred, more than 250 people kidnapped from Israel into Gaza, Still, there are 58 hostages who have not been freed. So all of this is still a tense time. Perhaps surprisingly, enemies of Israel have risen up in waves of what they call anti-Zionism. Clearly, it's well the same as anti-Semitism, and so I think that perhaps the scene in the United States is a little bit more dangerous than American Jews and Israelis in America might think. I mean, that is worth a professional review, don't you think?
I think we are living in a very delicate period. You know, within as long as the war will keep on and the conflict this stage will keep on like it keeps on these days. I believe that we should be I believe more in risk in Israel and worldwide. And my hope is that this war will come to an end very, very soon, which is more important for me for end not the conflict but the war, and coming into discussions of releasing all the 58 hostages that are there. And I believe that it should be as quick as we can, and wars will be in the future, and conflicts will stay on in the future. But nowadays, from my point of view, 58 hostages being kept in tunnels and down there, it's something that should be ended yesterday, not today.
Should have been ended. Now, I know you're not just giving your opinion as an experienced negotiator on behalf of the Israeli government and even the Mossad for many, many years, but now recently, with so many Israelis held in Gaza by Hamas, a terrorist group, you've been helping the families. You've been advising them. Ory Slonim, you and your wife Tommy, I know, spending a lot of time with hostage families. Can I get the latest on the mood? Because frankly, as an American, we're all very aware that the last person released was Idan Alexander, both a US and an Israeli citizen. So President Donald Trump was involved in trying to get him freed, and the Trump team. It's like an exception. Should the Alexander release lead quickly to resolving the whole problem? Or is it almost one exceptional case where President Trump kept pushing for Idan Alexander?
First of all, in October 7 at night, I was approached by some of the families, and this time, after 38 years of dealing with the negotiations and meeting, I think I met within this year hundreds and even more terrorists. We just set him one in front of the other, and we were in quite not good but normal relations. This time I only deal with the families. I try to assist the families and to hold their hands, and from time to time to advise them, but have nothing to do with the governmental efforts these days.
Well,
and I believe,
but you have experience. I imagine the families, at least at the beginning of your relationship with them, just after the October 7th tragedies, probably sometimes would ask you, what do you think is going on in the talks in Qatar and Cairo? What do you think now that the United States is more active in mediating, right? Steve Witkoff, the special mediator for President Trump, he and his assistant, Adam Bowler, they really seem intent on solving this. I imagine the families ask you, but Ory Slonim, I'm asking you, has it really made a difference that President Trump wants that war to end, seems to be taking Israel's side, maybe even supporting Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to still be tough and hit Gaza, but at the same time, trying to negotiate for the release of these innocent people? I mean, that's a lot going on. I don't know what advice you give to the families in how to view the political process.
I think that there is no there is no wise advice to the families these days after so many days, something like 590 days of having their relatives, their sons, their husbands, their fathers down there in the tunnels. No advice is wise, and no advice is practical. I believe that the war is the longest war ever Israel have handled in this area, and I believe that war will be in the future again. I don't see any solution tomorrow morning. What I think is that this event of being hostage for more than 590 days down there in the tunnels is something that no country in the world, no society in the world had practiced in the past. We hear and we know about torture, about their suffering there from everything, from hunger, from violence. Some of them lost their lives there. And I think that the only solution is to stop this event. I believe that the war can be ended with some agreements with the assistance of the US and other countries. I believe that other Western countries can assist. And I think that from my point of view, the only issue which should be handled nowadays is not a final solution, is not having achieved the 5 goals of the war. We can achieve them sometimes in the future, but the total release of everybody from this awful event. That's all.
Ory, I can't imagine that the hostage families are all united in their opinion on, if you will, a basic issue, whether to keep pounding Gaza, to let the war continue and deepen and expand, and that's what's been happening. That was Netanyahu's decision, or well, kind of the advice that you're personally giving, your opinion that it's much better to reach a deal as soon as possible, get the hostages released, even if it means that Hamas is not totally finished. The hostage families are not entirely united on one side or the other. They couldn't possibly be, are they?
It's very natural that so many human beings in the same trouble, in the same disaster, they cannot have one opinion, but I think that they all are sharing one opinion. They dream, they are demanding the release of their dears. So let's concentrate on this one issue, because I don't think this is the right time to have your opinion, your political opinion, your social opinion. There's only one opinion. We want them back. That's all.
Okay.
And then we can sit down. We can have solutions for everything. And I believe that with the assistance of President Trump, and I appreciate very much his effort and his words, and I'm applying to him to put his efforts more now, just for the release. I'm not talking about political situation, nothing about wars, and only about the release of these hostages.
I hear you're not talking about the future of Gaza or any plan he might have discussed on his trip to Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. No, you just make the focus this humanitarian issue. Now, Ory, someone like you, an experienced lawyer who had helped his government, as you said, for more than 30 years on missions like this, most of them secret missions. I think that maybe our audience here on the Mossad Files has to understand that there is a special sensitivity in Israel, right? Often you would go on a mission trying to locate, hopefully arrange the release of one person who might be an Israeli Air Force pilot or maybe a Mossad operative who was caught overseas. And now we're talking right now about 58, fewer than half of them believed to be alive. But in Israel, that's everything, right? Even one man or woman held by the enemy, as they say, behind enemy lines, it's part of Israeli society. you have to get them out as a high priority, correct?
You know, within my 38 year of experience, we dealt with a few, with singles, with 3 soldiers, 5 soldiers, 1 soldier who were missing in action, or when we talk about the prisoners of war, it was only after wars, after big wars, and then when the war is ending, then we are sitting, you know, on 2 sides and summing up everything. But this case of so much hostages, I think it's a precedent that nobody in the world had experienced such an occasion. And I believe that this is the reason that I'm not talking about the war, I'm not talking about the politics, I'm not talking about a comprehensive solution. It will come one day, but I believe not in my life period. But for the time being, it's a humanitarian issue of having 58 people there. Some of them, unfortunately, are dead, but most of them are alive, are being tortured. They're not alive. It's not life. They're like beasts. So I'm concentrating my message to my country, to my government, to President Trump and the whole Western world to end this awful event. I don't want to deal with any politics, with any things regarding total solution of the whole conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah, I hear you there. And just as a final thought, though, Israel and Israelis are especially sensitive to this. I mean, I take your point that you're saying any nation that would have dozens of people held by a terrorist group, it would be a very high priority to somehow make a deal to get them out. Any nation. But I feel that I believe that Israeli society won't be healed and calm again after the shocking attack of October 7th, after so many people murdered, until the hostages are home, right? It's necessary to your society. True?
To be precise in this matter, I will tell you that we're not playing games here, and we're not playing with our words. The Hamas is asking for ceasefire in order to release everybody, and I think there is nothing against a ceasefire, a long ceasefire, a very long ceasefire, and releasing everybody tomorrow morning. And I believe that this is something which we don't have to be afraid of ceasefire. We don't be afraid. We are strong enough. We are strong enough to have this long ceasefire and release everybody tomorrow morning.
Okay, and we have to wind up our conversation, but just to be clear, you're not trying to dictate political solutions. You're not talking for or against Netanyahu. You don't think there'll be an overall Palestinian-Israeli solution.
Not at all.
So the only solution you even can hope for now is make a deal to get all the hostages home with their families, and all the other problems leave till later, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you that I was born in Israel in a family that are living here in Israel and in Palestine and in this area for more than 10 generations. Many wars, many conflicts. I believe that most of my family for the last 250 years lived in conflicts, in wars. But I'm in this case nowadays, I'm not talking about not a war and not about fighting, but only about releasing these 58 human beings and then think about everything else.
Thank you so much. Ory Slonim, as I say, a very well-known and successful attorney in Tel Aviv, very accomplished. You've written a book about so much you did for the not really for the Israeli government, but I think for the Israeli society to try to win the release of Israelis who were held by enemies. Your book is called A Knock at the Door, and you're still working with those hostage families. Ory Slonim, good luck to you, and thank you very much for speaking with us.
Yes, and I hope that somebody will hear my and our message.
Thank you. That's it for the Mossad Files, this video special. I'm Dan Raviv. Thanks for watching.